I'm 72 years old. In just 21 days, a stranger I never met convinced me he loved me, and I almost sent him $8,400. I thought I was too smart to be fooled. I was wrong. What saved me might save you too. I'm 72 years old, and in just 21 days, I almost gave my heart and my savings to a man who never existed. What stopped me still scares me. I never thought I would be the kind of person this could happen to. I raised children. I managed a household. I survived loss, disappointment, and real hardship. I considered myself careful, wise, maybe even a little guarded. At 72, you believe you've seen enough of life to recognize danger when it knocks. But this didn't knock. It slipped in quietly. It started with a simple message online. Polite, respectful. He said he admired my smile. He said he hadn't felt a connection like this in years. I almost ignored it, but loneliness has a soft voice. It tells you, just reply once. What's the harm? Within days, we were talking every morning and every night. He remembered small details. He asked about my late husband. He told me I deserved happiness again. No one had spoken to me like that in a very long time. By the end of the first week, he called me my love. By the second week, he was telling me about our future. He painted pictures so vivid I could almost step into them. Traveling together, cooking side by side, holding hands like teenagers. At 72, you don't expect butterflies again. But there they were. Then came the problem. He said he was working overseas, a contract, temporary. He just needed help accessing funds, a small delay with the bank. He was embarrassed to ask, he said. He hated burdening me. That's what made it feel real. He didn't sound demanding. He sounded ashamed. The amount wasn't small. It was more than I'd ever sent anyone outside my family. But he reminded me how much we meant to each other. He reminded me of our future. And here's the part that still chills me. I was seconds away from sending it. My hand was shaking over the confirmation button. What stopped me wasn't intelligence. It wasn't suspicion. It was a tiny, uncomfortable pause in my chest, a question that didn't feel loud, just persistent. Why can't I video call him whenever I want? So I asked again. He deflected, blamed poor connection, military restrictions, broken camera. Excuses came quickly. Too quickly. I told my daughter. I almost didn't. I felt embarrassed, but I did. Within hours, she showed me photos he had stolen from another man's profile. The same words he sent me had been copied and pasted to dozens of women. In 21 days, I had built a future with a ghost. What scares me isn't that he tried. What scares me is how close I came, how badly I wanted it to be real, how loneliness can dress up danger as hope. I didn't lose my savings, but I lost something else, the illusion that I was immune. If you are lonely, please hear me. There is no shame in wanting love, but love that rushes, pressures, and asks for money is not love. At 72, I learned this the hard way, and if my story makes you pause before you click send, then that fear I felt was worth it. At 72, I thought I was too wise to be fooled. I was wrong. One message, 3 promises, and I nearly lost everything. When you reach this age, you believe experience protects you. I have lived through inflation, illness, raising children, burying loved ones, and rebuilding my life more than once. I have handled bills, contracts, repairs, and real crises. I believed wisdom was armor. I believed no smooth talk or sweet words could blind me. Then one message arrived. It was simple, respectful. He said he admired my strength, not my looks, not my age, my strength. That detail disarmed me. It felt thoughtful, intentional. He asked about my life, my hobbies, my family. He listened, or at least it felt like he did. Within days, we were speaking every morning. He would say, "Good morning, beautiful soul." No one had greeted me like that in years. Loneliness does not shout. It whispers. It tells you that maybe, just maybe, this is your second chance. Then came the 3 promises. The first promise, I will never hurt you. He said he had been hurt before too. He understood betrayal. He would protect my heart. At 72, you value emotional safety more than excitement. His words felt steady, reassuring. The second promise, I see a future with you. He spoke about traveling together, about cooking meals side by side, about sitting on a porch growing old together, as if we were not already old but beginning something new. He painted pictures so vivid I could see them. The third promise, you can trust me. He said trust is rare, sacred. He said he felt safe with me, and something inside me softened. Being trusted feels powerful. It makes you want to rise to that trust. Weeks passed quickly, too quickly. Then came the emergency, a delay with a payment overseas, a contract issue, funds temporarily frozen. He was embarrassed to ask for help, he said. He hated that pride forced him to come to me. That detail made it believable. Scammers don't demand at first. They hesitate. They sigh. They act ashamed. The amount he asked for made my stomach tighten. It wasn't pocket change. It was a large portion of what I had carefully saved for security. The money that meant independence. The money that meant I would never have to depend on anyone. But he reminded me of the future we planned. He reminded me of his promises. I surprised myself by considering it. That is what frightens me the most. Not that he asked, but that I almost agreed. I had already justified it in my mind. It's temporary. He'll pay it back. Love requires trust. I was negotiating with my own instincts. What stopped me was not brilliance. It was discomfort. A quiet question. Why had we never spoken face to face on video without an excuse? Why was there always a reason? When I pushed harder, his tone changed. Slightly defensive, slightly urgent. That shift cracked the illusion. With help from my family, I discovered the truth. The photos were stolen. The story was copied. The promises were recycled lines sent to countless women like me. At 72, I learned something humbling. Wisdom does not cancel loneliness. Experience does not silence hope. And hope, in the wrong hands, can be dangerous. I did not lose my savings, but I nearly lost my confidence. I nearly lost the security I worked a lifetime to build. If you believe you are too wise to be fooled, please pause. That belief is exactly what almost cost me everything. I'm 72, living alone, and I trusted the wrong voice. By the time I saw the truth, $8,400 was almost gone. Living alone at this age is not always sad. Sometimes it is peaceful. I have my routines, my morning tea, my quiet evenings, my memories. I have learned to enjoy my own company, but there are moments, especially at night, when the silence feels heavier than usual. That's when the heart becomes more open than the mind. The voice came into my life gently. It started with a message online, polite, warm. He said he noticed my smile and wondered what stories were behind it. No one had asked me that in years. I almost ignored him. But something in me wanted to feel seen again. We began talking every day. At first, it was simple conversation, weather, hobbies, small jokes. Then it became deeper. He asked about my late husband. He said he admired my strength. He told me I deserved companionship, not just memories. His voice, even through text, felt steady, reassuring, kind. He would say good morning before I even woke up. He would wish me good night when the house grew quiet. Slowly, my phone stopped feeling like a device and started feeling like connection. He told me he worked overseas on a contract. Temporary, he said, just until he could return and start a new chapter. He talked about visiting me, cooking dinner together, sitting in the garden. At 72, you don't expect new beginnings. So when one appears, you want to believe it. Then came the problem. There was a delay with his payment, a banking issue, a short-term emergency. He said he was embarrassed to ask. He said he had no one else he trusted. "You're the only person I can turn to," he wrote. That sentence changed everything. Being needed feels powerful when you live alone. It makes you feel important, chosen. The amount wasn't small. First it was a few thousand, then a little more to cover transfer fees. Each request came wrapped in affection and gratitude. He promised repayment within days. He reminded me of our future plans. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself love requires trust. Before I realized what was happening, $8,400 was nearly transferred. What stopped me was not intelligence. It was hesitation, a small crack in the story. Every time I asked for a live video call, there was an excuse. Poor signal, security rules, broken camera, always something. My chest felt tight, not from fear of losing money, but from fear of losing him. That's when I finally told my son. I expected him to think I was foolish. Instead, he acted quickly. Within hours, he found the same photos attached to multiple scam warnings online. The same words, the same script, the same promises. The voice I trusted wasn't real. I felt embarrassed, angry, heartbroken, not because of the money, though that scared me, but because I had allowed myself to hope. Living alone does not make you weak, but it can make you vulnerable to someone who knows exactly what to say. I was lucky. I stopped just in time, but I came close enough to losing $8,400 to understand something important. Scams don't begin with greed. They begin with connection, with kindness, with someone learning exactly what you need to hear. If you are living alone and someone online moves too fast, speaks too perfectly, or asks for money wrapped in love, pause. The wrong voice can sound exactly like the right one. And sometimes the only thing standing between you and loss is one uncomfortable question you are brave enough to ask. I'm 72. And the most dangerous lie I believed wasn't about money, it was about love. This is how scammers almost won. When people hear about romance scams, they think the danger is financial. They imagine bank accounts drained and savings stolen. And yes, the money matters. But that wasn't the real trap for me. The real trap was the lie that love had finally found me again. At 72, you don't expect grand romance. You tell yourself those chapters are closed. You convince yourself that companionship is something younger people chase. You learn to live with quiet evenings and long mornings. You make peace with independence. Then someone comes along and gently challenges that peace. He didn't start with flattery. He started with understanding. He said he admired my resilience. He asked about my life, really asked. He wanted to know about my childhood, my marriage, my dreams that never had time to grow. He told me I still had light in me. That's the lie I believed, that being seen so clearly must mean it was real. Within weeks, we were speaking daily. He said he felt a connection he hadn't felt in decades. He told me age didn't matter. He said love doesn't expire. Every word sounded mature, intentional, safe. I wasn't blinded by greed. I was softened by hope. The lie wasn't send me money. The lie was this is your second chance. When he talked about a future together, I didn't roll my eyes. I imagined it. I imagined laughing over coffee, traveling slowly, holding hands without rushing anywhere. At 72, the idea of being chosen again feels powerful. That's how scammers almost win, not by creating fantasy, but by offering possibility. Then came the hardship in his story, a contract overseas, a payment delay, temporary financial trouble. He was ashamed to ask for help, he said. He insisted he would repay me quickly. He reminded me of our plans. And here is the uncomfortable truth. I was more afraid of losing him than losing the money. That realization still humbles me. I began justifying things I would once have questioned. The missed video calls, the strange timing, the slight inconsistencies. I told myself I was being overly cautious. I told myself trust requires risk, but real love does not rush. Real love does not isolate you from your doubts. Real love does not ask for secrecy or urgency. When I finally insisted on proof, on a live, uninterrupted video conversation, the warmth shifted. His tone cooled. The patience disappeared. Pressure replaced tenderness. That was the crack in the illusion. With help from my family, I discovered the truth. The photos were stolen. The profession was fake. The promises were copied and pasted into other women's inboxes. What almost broke me wasn't the request for money. It was the realization that the connection I felt was carefully engineered. The most dangerous lie I believed was this, that because I am older, love would be rare, and therefore I should hold on to it tightly when it appears. But love is not rare because of age. It is rare because it is honest. At 72, I learned that loneliness can distort judgment, but it does not make you foolish. It makes you human. Scammers almost won because they understood something deeply emotional. People don't send money for strangers. They send it for hope. If you remember nothing else from my story, remember this. Love that asks for proof of your devotion in dollars is not love, and no matter your age, you deserve something real. At 72, I learned a painful truth. Loneliness can be more expensive than any mistake. Here's how close I came to losing it all. Loneliness doesn't arrive suddenly. It grows quietly, like a shadow you stop noticing because it's always there. After my children built their own lives and my husband passed, the days became predictable, peaceful, yes, but also empty in ways I didn't want to admit. I told myself I was fine, independent, strong. I didn't realize how costly loneliness could be until someone learned how to speak directly to it. It started with a simple online message. Nothing dramatic, just kindness, curiosity. He asked about my day. He listened when I answered. That alone felt rare. As the conversations continued, he remembered details, my favorite tea, my morning walks, the stories I shared about my past. Each small act made me feel seen. Loneliness isn't just the absence of people. It's the absence of being known. Within days, my phone became something I looked forward to. He was consistent, reliable, gentle. He said he admired my resilience. He told me I still had so much life ahead of me. At 72, those words land differently. They don't excite you. They steady you. Then he shared his story, working overseas, widowed, searching for connection just like me. It felt aligned, almost too aligned. But loneliness makes coincidence feel like destiny. As the emotional bond deepened, so did my investment. I rearranged my routines around our conversations. I protected his privacy, not because he asked, but because it felt intimate. I didn't want outside voices questioning something that made me feel alive again. That's when the cost of loneliness began to rise. A problem appeared in his life. A delayed payment, a banking issue, something temporary but urgent. He didn't demand help. He hesitated. He expressed shame. He said he hated asking. That hesitation made it feel genuine. The amount he needed was large enough to scare me, but small enough to justify. I told myself it was a loan. I told myself I was helping someone I loved. I told myself independence meant choosing where my money went. What I didn't see was how loneliness had narrowed my vision. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was thinking emotionally. I was one step away from sending the money when something inside me paused. Not logic, not fear, just discomfort. A quiet sense that something wasn't right. I asked for a live video call. Again and again. The excuses came fast, too fast. When I finally shared everything with my family, the truth unraveled quickly. The photos were stolen. The story was false. The connection was carefully constructed. What felt personal was a practiced script. I didn't lose my savings, but I came close enough to understand how easily I could have. Loneliness nearly cost me my financial security. It nearly cost me my confidence. It nearly cost me my trust in myself. The painful truth I learned at 72 is this. Loneliness doesn't just hurt emotionally. It weakens boundaries. It makes risks feel reasonable and urgency feel romantic. There is no shame in wanting connection, but connection that isolates you, pressures you, or asks for money is not connection. It is manipulation. If my story makes you pause, ask questions, or reach out for a second opinion, then it has served its purpose. Loneliness can be expensive, but awareness is free. and it may be the most valuable thing you ever protect.